standing up, moving around, can make enormous differences to your health and well-being. And one of the experts, and indeed, as you'll see in a moment, enthusiasts in the area, is Professor James Levine of the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. So Jim, how did you get into this obesity and movement story?
We took lean individuals and we overfed a whole group of individuals by 1,000 calories a day above their weight maintenance needs. So we knew exactly how many calories a certain person required to keep their body weight steady, and then we overfed them 1,000 calories above that. And what we found was that there was a 10-fold variation. So some people will burn off nearly all of those excess calories. Other people will store nearly all of those excess calories as body fat. How can that be? Well, the secret to burning off all of those excess calories was something we discovered and called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So the calories you burn with everyday movement. So it's really fascinating when you think about it, because if you take a regular person and you overfeed them, without that person thinking or deciding to go to the gym or anything else, they'll just start to move more and burn excess calories.
So they're twitchy?
Well, we originally thought it was twitchy, and what transpires is it's those people who spontaneously just start ambling around, walking more, burning off up to 700 extra calories a day, are those people who remain thin.
So these were the people who were overfed, and that was their response to overfeeding?
Yes. Then we asked the question, well, if that's the case, how about people with obesity? Are people with obesity more likely to be sitting down more compared to those people who can't sit still? And the answer is yes. In fact, people with obesity living in regular environments are prone to be seated 2.5 hours a day more than people who are thin.
2.5 hours?
2.5 hours.
Independent of the sort of job that they do?
That is exactly right. When you look in one office space, some people literally are moving 2 or 3 hours a day more than other people. So that variability does exist even in a chair-bound society.
And what is it about somebody who becomes a couch potato, who is twitchy and naturally gets up and walks?
The two answers to that are people have different biology, and people do have different environments and different stimuli. So with respect to the biology, there have been a lot of animal experiments now that have demonstrated a series of chemicals that are firing right at the base of the brain that drive, in this case animals, up to move far more than other animals who are prone to be obese.
So it's genetic?
To a certain extent that's genetic, but on the other hand, however, there are a multitude of environmental stimuli that drive some people in or out of their chairs, and they're obvious to all of us, whether that's the washing machine, the dishwasher, the car, the TV.
Or having a chair.
Exactly. Or having a job that necessitates you sitting all the time, or having a job that makes you get up and move.
And we're doing this interview standing up, and you spend most of your life standing up.
What's the option? I mean, what's very, very interesting is the default in modern society has become to be seated. Whatever it is, I can do it sitting. I can get married sitting, I can order my food sitting, I can order my clothes sitting. But we would argue that the default needs to be out of your chair, up and moving.
How much extra energy do you then burn if you're doing this standing and walking around?
Converting oneself from sitting still to standing still, the increment in calories isn't that great. But what's very interesting is as soon as somebody's standing, they're more prone to move. And as soon as you're walking, as soon as you're bearing weight on your body and moving, you've doubled your metabolic rate, you've doubled the calories you're burning. So if the two of us were to now launch and just start ambling around this beautiful foyer, what we would be doing is burning 150 calories for that hour of talking. And if we were actually late for somewhere and we were to rush, we could burn 200 or 300 calories in that same hour.
So it's quite significant. What happened when you underfed people?
What's very, very interesting is similarly there is a tremendous variability in how people lose weight. And one of the things we were concerned about is as people start to lose weight, they're going to move less. So what we were interested in doing is whether we could counter that drop in movement by encouraging people to move more.
So when you underfeed people, they sit down more?
That's correct.
Even the twitchy ones, even the fidgety ones?
But you can prevent that by giving people programs to move more.
Is it enough calories to make a difference to your weight?
The answer is yes, because of course over time 100 calories a day accumulates to become 10 or 20 pounds, 10 kilos of weight a year, number one. However, number two I think is even more important. It transpires, and the last 5 to 10 years of data have shown this quite clearly, is that people who are seated more are more prone to not only perhaps obesity, but also metabolic diseases, diabetes, blood pressure, early cancer. People who are prone to sit more tend to die earlier too.
So what's the mechanism by which standing up, moving around, actually prevents these metabolic diseases?
It's very interesting. As soon as you sit down, the genes that drive the action of insulin with respect to pushing glucose into the cells change dramatically. They sort of kind of switch off. Sitting isn't just about not burning calories, it's also about all of these sort of awful metabolic consequences.
So how do you change the environment that people are living in or working in to make a difference?
Exactly how you do it, it just takes enormous commitment at all levels of the infrastructure, from leadership through to the cleaning staff, through to people who are working.
So let's take the office. How does the office change? Standing desks?
We've developed standing desks, treadmill desks, walking programs.
Treadmill desks?
Treadmill desks, walking programs.
So you're walking when you're working?
We're walking when you're working. It works in every single company we've worked in. We've worked in about 55 US corporations. Walk and talk meetings. The same meeting conducted whilst walking and talking, first of all, will be 10 minutes shorter, and second of all, no one will fall asleep.
How do you do a walking meeting?
You have the same meeting, walking and talking. And what's very interesting...
You're walking around the room? What are you doing?
So for example, here you've got to look at this, how beautiful this concourse is. And I've actually held meetings walking right around this circuit here, backwards and forwards. And what one does is one covers exactly the same amount of information. About 95% of the notes they'll take in a meeting are never read again, let alone used. And so what walk and talk meetings tend to do are to focus the minds of the participants.
You must be a nightmare to live with, Jim.
I don't know if I'm a nightmare to live with. I don't think I could say that.
What do you do at home?
I write on a treadmill.
Where does eating fit in to the standing walking story?
What we actually devised was a whole series of sort of scales, measures and approaches to helping individuals balance the nutritional intake with the number of calories they were starting to burn. We were starting to have people lose too much weight, and so we actually got into the position where we had to sort of start driving up people's calories to match. And also, what's critical is that the number one point about eating is pleasure and socialization. And if you're not enjoying your food and you're not doing it in a socially positive way, it's time to think again. And so our emphasis has always been on cooking together, families cooking together, growing stuff. It's the coolest thing. If you haven't grown anything, you've got to do it. And eating something you've grown will change your life forever. So we do a lot of those kind of programs.